Okay, if everybody can find their seat, please. Yep. We're short with city administrator. Go get him. Go get him.
Probably John.
Joe, missing one person. You want to see if you can find him?
Did we just start?
No. City administrator. All right. Good job.
Good.
Hey, Larry, can you check all those mics and make sure they're all turned off, please, on the table? Thank you. Okay, we'll now return and have a report from closed session.
There were 2 items on the agenda. Both were discussed, but there was no reportable action taken.
Thank you. And now for our invocation, Police and Fire Chaplain Tony Durham. Tony?
Father God, we're gathered here tonight seeking your presence and your direction on the issues that our city council will be facing throughout this evening. Father, we ask for your wisdom, not only for this community, but for our nation. Give our leaders the strength and the knowledge necessary for a strong and fair government. Father God, be with our first responders in our city. Stand beside them as you have stood beside them and others throughout their careers. Father God, we ask that you place a hedge of protection around our military men and women and their families. So many have paid the ultimate price for our freedom, and it's our duty to never forget them or the Father that loves us and all of us as you do. Thank you for your presence and guidance here tonight. Amen.
You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, a couple changes in our agenda this evening. Item number 11, the discussion of providing additional funding for the Human Services Commission has been pulled because we have discovered that Comcast owes us one more check for $25,000. So that item will be instead discussed during the semi-annual budget hearings next year. And on the proclamation side, we'll actually have 2 tonight, one for freedom from workplace bullying and a second one for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Someone here with regard to the bullying proclamation? No. Okay, we'll hold that one over for next week, or for 2 weeks from now, because they didn't make it and they're coming from a distance away, so we weren't sure if they were going to get here. And who's here for the proclamation on Domestic Violence Awareness Month? Come on down. Whereas historically and presently, women have been and continue to be the victims of intimate partner violence, and the crime of domestic violence is not just confined to any group or groups of people, but crosses all economic, racial, and social groups. And whereas one woman every 15 seconds is assaulted in America by her spouse or cohabitant, usually causing physical injury, violating her privacy, and leaving her bankrupt of self-respect and dignity, and resulting in an imprint of fear for life. And whereas children are emotionally abused by witnessing family violence, many growing up to repeat the pattern as the next generation of abusers and victims. And whereas 1 in 3 teenagers report that violence is part of their dating relationship, and whereas the Lompoc Police Department's victim advocate position has been providing vital advocacy services for battered women and their children for the past 17 years. And whereas Domestic Violence Awareness Month is aimed at focusing community-wide attention on battered women and promotes the support of shelters and other programs which serve them. And whereas the Lompoc Police Department has requested the partnership of all residents in Lompoc, Vandenberg Village, and Mission Hills, and Vandenberg Air Force Base in helping to accomplish the total elimination of domestic violence in all of our communities. Now, therefore, I, John H. Lynn, Mayor of the City of Lompoc, California, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2014 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And the people that can make a difference are watching TV and sitting in this room. You can do the work, but we can make the difference. Thank you for what you do. No speech? No speech?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this is your chance.
I wasn't prepared to make a speech, but I would actually like to invite everybody here and everybody watching to our domestic violence vigil, October 28th. It's at 6:30 p.m. It's right out here in the courtyard. We're going to have a survivor speak. We're going to have a song. It's going to be short and sweet. But the more people that show up to show the victims of our community that they're supported by the people of the community, the more likely they're going to come forward and seek the help they need, and we can start to really make a dent in the issue of domestic violence in our community. Thank you.
You guys tag teaming, Sid, Trevor? Or, yeah. Okay. So I'd like to announce the tag team match of the Lompoc Unified School District, Superintendent Trevor McDonald and Assistant Superintendent Sid Haro, who will present a report on the current and upcoming events throughout the school district. Thank you for coming, gentlemen.
Thank you, Council and public, for having us. We'll provide you with some highlights that we're undertaking right now and some things that we're going to be doing in the near future. So, okay. Sorry. There we go. Okay. The first one I'm going to talk about is assessments. And I'll give you a brief overview of assessments. So anytime, just like all of you in the council or anything you're looking at, we need some data to know where we're going. For example, Mayor Lynn, you talked about some street lights. You gave an example of a certain area that has none, a certain area that has 2. Well, obviously, somebody studied that. There's been some data collected. We need to collect data from the students, and we do it primarily right now 3 ways. Illuminate, our SBAC, which we talked about last spring. It's the new testing system in California, and then common interim assessments. So I'm going to highlight these common interim assessments. So the SBAC, first of all, that's the state one that we take every year. The other ones are ones we built in. So one of the things that we found here in Lompoc Unified, we were a little bit behind on the assessments, and we needed to get something in immediately to assess these kids a few times a year. So we're going to do them on a 45-day, a 90-day, and a 135. So we're going every 45 days. And of course, there's been all kinds of rumbling, good, bad, and in the middle. What what are we capturing this data for? And we've heard all kinds of stuff to say, well, we just want to look at it. But the truth of it is, we want this to inform the instruction. For example, if we're 45 days into the year and a third grade class, I'm going to just name some schools, this doesn't really happen, but let's say a third grade class at Fillmore and a third grade class at Ruth. And we see half of the kids at Fillmore are below what they should be, but 80% at Ruth are above. Well, that tells us something's going on there. It's the same assessment. They're in the same grade. Now, principals can get together, teachers can get together to say, hey, what are you doing at Ruth that maybe we aren't? Or how did you teach this standard, or what's happening? So really, the ultimate goal isn't an adult-driven goal. It's a child-driven goal to say we need to know where you're at, and then we need to fill in the gaps if there are some gaps missing. So this assessments, and you probably have heard throughout the state, you get a lot of pushback from, not from kids, because we hear even kids saying, oh, young kids, they want to know where they're at. And they also want to improve. So we get a lot of pushback from adults in the system for various reasons. But just like I heard earlier saying, give our leaders some strength there, because we know when we're informed, then we can adjust what we need to adjust. So I'll go back to that streetlight example. If in fact there does need to be streetlights, well, we know then we're going to have to do something to put a streetlight there. It's an example. I'm in the middle on this one. You guys can flush that one out. But if we have a certain set of group of kids at a school that are not performing like we want them to, well, we know that, and now we can help fill in those gaps. Teachers can help fill in those gaps, principals. So that's really the big thing on assessments. It's to inform us where we're at. So we have, to piece this together in your mind, we have the 45, 90, 135-day assessments. We control those. State has nothing to do with them. We have the yearly one, that's the SBAC, the second one. State controls that. All the stuff goes to the state. We get that reported back. That's probably the one that we're going to be held accountable from the state and from the federal government. And then we have built-in assessments along the way. So those of you that have kids in the system or had, it's no different than, we are not on the cutting edge on this one. This has been going on for years. It's just a matter of collecting the data, and then what do we do with it? That's the key. What do we do with that data? Do we look at it and say, wow, this doesn't look like we wanted it to? Or are we going to then do something about it? I'll answer my own question. We're going to do something about it, and we're going to continue to strive to help our kids reach the maximum potential. So assessments. Now, it may, I know we're talking in our educational world, but this is a huge piece. I would equate it to, for city council, this is a public works, let's just say water. This is a huge thing in our world that if we can get these assessments in, which we will, get them implemented, getting teachers using this data to drive their instruction, and then also informing parents. So you as parents and whoever is in charge of the kids, you know exactly where your kids are, you know where you can help, and you're informed. I heard that at the beginning of the meeting. You're informed to where your kids are. So you can now have an intelligent conversation with a teacher saying, I see my kids behind in math, how can I help them, but also what are you doing to help my kids? So it's really closing that loop of everybody accountable and all of us pushing in the same direction for kids. So assessments, a major year-long taking that we're now rolling out this year in a real meaningful fashion. The next one I'm going to talk about, and then I'm going to pass it off to Assistant Superintendent Haro, and I'll let him answer any tough questions too, so just keep. Technology. So three quick bullet points. Support programs and professional development, teacher laptops, and infrastructure. So the first one I'm going to talk about, we talked about it a little bit last time, support programs. These are all programs that we bring in that are extra, in addition to the regular curriculum. And these are mostly computer-based programs. in addition, with the computer-based programs, that's nothing new in a sense. But what we've done, and our folks have done a really good job on, is the professional development piece. And Mr. Haro has to take most of the credit for this one. Developing a professional development, or having a professional development plan, and getting the adults trained in the system, because it's one thing to have the program and let kids get on it and they'll learn organically, but it's another thing to have a system in place to develop our teachers and develop the folks that are delivering that program. So now I'm not going to say we're all bought in, but we're 80% bought in with folks in the classroom of getting these support programs to the kids, to your kids, which then in turn we know will help them maximize their potential. The other one, teacher laptops. When we're starting our second year, and when we got here, in order to get into this 21st century learning module, you all know, I don't have to tell you about the kids, everybody has a handheld device and the kids are way ahead of where we are. Well, one of the pieces, and I'll talk about some more in a second, but one of the big pieces was getting the technology in the hands of the teachers so they can be successful, because part of it is if you've been teaching 20 years one way and now the shift is happening to say, wow, we have to teach differently. That's all there is to it. It's a different type of kid coming through, and we need to adapt to our clientele. So we purchased and got every single teacher in the district a laptop, which on one hand may not seem like that big of a deal, but when we're talking, I don't know, 600-700 laptops that need to all be put in the hands of the teachers, professionally developed. Now, does every teacher feel comfortable? I'm sure they don't, but we're working hard to get them to feel comfortable, and in turn, remember the ultimate goal is getting the technology into the kids' hands and delivering the instruction in a way that they're used to it, that they can absorb. And the third one is the infrastructure. So just to give a perfect example, when we got here, we had not one of our schools was completely wireless. So to put this in perspective, you can go to Starbucks and get on wireless for free, yet in a public school, we had a couple places that had it in the office or maybe had it in a wing, but we didn't have one school that was completely wireless, which we felt like this is a key piece to the education, and it's a piece we can't miss. So we now are proud, starting in September when school started, every single campus is wireless. So this puts the infrastructure in, obviously, for years to come. And with that, not only teacher laptops, we've purchased about 500 or 600 student laptops. We've got about 400 more ready to be deployed. We've purchased about 1,000 desktops and built computer labs throughout the district. So one way to think of it is every school now is wireless. We've got about, give or take, close to 2,000 new computers in kids' hands. We've got the support programs that they can be using those programs to develop their skills, and we've done the professional development with the teachers, and we'll continue to do that. That's an ongoing thing. We've always said, and I said it here last time, the kids are easy. It's the adults getting us on board, and I'll clump myself into that. That's the tough part, continuing to build their skills to keep up with the kids. So we're really proud of what we've done. We're proud of the partnership with the city. I think we know that we have common interests in mind. We have, and a lot of our stuff is parallel. It's just different. It's just a little bit different. So we're really excited about the year to come, and we're also excited about, I'm excited about just explaining this infrastructure, because we don't normally get the opportunity, and a lot of that stuff is behind the walls. And with that infrastructure, if any of you are tech people, we have built about 20 to 25 new servers, upped our bandwidth extremely. So it's going to be good things for Lompoc Unified now and in the future. So with that, I'll pass the next slides over to Assistant Superintendent Haro.
So we have a couple of more elements in terms of the state of ed services in Lompoc. So Common Core, because that's in most states across the country, and California and our school district has adopted that. So 3 ways that we're getting our arms around it here in Lompoc, because it's a shift in a way of teaching. Professional development. Superintendent McDonald nailed this in terms of if we're going to hold our children accountable for learning, which is what we want, we need to make sure that we support all of our staff with ongoing professional development. So we actually began this process more than a year ago in terms of ongoing symposium, conferences, professional learning through the County Office of Ed, individual learning at universities, but we're also delivering professional development in Lompoc Unified School District throughout the year based on our staff's needs, both teachers and our support staff. Engage New York actually piloted their curriculum for Common Core. Now, Common Core isn't a curriculum or a program, but there are certainly different districts and states throughout the country that have already worked hard in terms of aligning some content towards those Common Core standards. Another is Ed Caliber. We're currently piloting Engage New York in 2 of our schools here in Lompoc. During this past summer, we had think tanks, we called them, that worked on developing scope and sequences in terms of ensuring during the year we knew what standards to teach during the year. By the end of this school year, we will have materials and curriculum available for every teacher throughout the district, both in language arts and mathematics, to help them deliver and get their arms around the Common Core standards. But it's interesting because I had an opportunity to hear from more than one teacher that because the Common Core isn't a program or a book, some of them are actually having fun having that creativity to develop their own lessons, which that's where you engage kids, is when you're a little bit creative. And coaching. You know, the greatest impact on student achievement are teachers. The literature is clear. Number 2, leadership matters. That's principals. Principals work really hard every day. But number 3 are coaches. Coaches. You know, some of the top CEOs have coaches. Some of the top athletes have coaches. I have a coach, and we have expanded under the new Superintendent McDonald the number of coaches in Lompoc Unified to work with teachers. And at the end of the day, no matter how or when they're working with teachers, it's not about feel-good coaching, it's about student achievement, and it always loops back to Common Core, because in the classroom, that's what they're delivering. The last slide I want to leave you with is program implementation and delivery. You know, I get so many emails, and so does the superintendent every day, of people selling their products. This is the best product in the world since sliced bread, and it's going to fix everything for your kids. Quite frankly, there are a lot of good products out there. But the superintendent has a little saying. It's called minding the store. It's how you implement and deliver an initiative that makes the difference. And we are really focused in Lompoc Unified at minding the store now. We make sure that we implement and deliver any initiative with accompanying professional development. We no longer sign any MOUs or contracts with any support providers for your children without professional development to have the teachers and support staff know how to use them. And it doesn't happen just once, it happens longitudinally throughout the year and beyond. The second is monitoring. I mean, if we deliver a program and we don't pay attention to the data, and Trevor talked about data, we are monitoring that data, not as a gotcha, but as a way to see what additional support the teachers need, what are the gaps for our students, what about our principals, what are the trends at their school, and then district-wide. We're working under the superintendent's vision in terms of making sure that organizationally we have our finger on the pulse of the data and to monitor it in real time during the year. Not to wait till the end of the year, because that's a post-mortem, but to do it during the course of the year, minding the store. And the last, quite frankly, I'm going to loop back to teachers and the support staff that help them do their job. At the end of the day, it's not about the program. It's about driving the instruction for kids in the classroom. That's where we make the difference for your kids. And so it may seem pretty simple, and in some ways it is, but we just want to mind the store in Lompoc Unified School District. Whatever we deliver, we want to monitor it. We want to provide ongoing professional development. And whatever information and data we get from that, looking at the trends, it needs to help inform our instruction. I kind of want to wind up with just a couple of words. It's been really exciting to work with the new leadership. Trevor McDonald is making a huge difference, and we're at a tipping point. And I need to share with you that any success that we do have, because we, quite frankly, we're on the verge of some really, really great growth with our kids. It's going to be due at the end of the day to our teachers that are delivering this instruction and work long hours. It's going to be due to our support staff that they do all the things from answer the phone and help parents and direct them to resources. And it's going to be related to our principals. That could be a lonely job, being a principal. So putting that all together, it's exciting to be part of what's going on right now. We're at a tipping point, and we're going to mind the store. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Costa.
Thanks, Marilyn. I have a tough question, but Trevor, if you want to answer it.
I might defer to Sid.
That's okay. No, I want to thank you again for coming, and I'll wrap around with that in a second. But first, you mentioned the wireless campuses, and I'm sure you're aware the city of Lompoc does have its own wireless utility for wireless internet. And so if that was considered, perhaps that's something we could communicate if that's why, if it wasn't chosen, which I'm assuming you went with a private utility to help you become wireless. But in the future, to put that in the back of your head to say, look, is there a mutually beneficial way we can go about this relationship that would help our utility and help the school district, especially cost-wise, perhaps in the future? So I just wanted to...
Yep, absolutely, and I think we'll continue to have those conversations. As you know, we participate in an E-rate program that, anyway, point taken, absolutely. I think we're not locked into anything over time, and we definitely want to have those conversations.
I think that would be worthwhile. And then the last thing I want to mention was to council, just to say that when I was first on council, it felt sort of like silos. You know, like the city has its silo, the county, the chamber, the school district. But what we've kind of been able to do is sort of really cultivate this really great non-traditional relationship with the school district and with the chamber, particularly through these updates every couple months or every couple of weeks or whatever it is. And I really enjoy it. Even if it may not be particularly relevant in that moment, having this face-to-face to me is very valuable. So with that being said, I've been able to coordinate between our city clerk and the assistant superintendent for these appearances. And I just wanted to leave you with, I hope it continues when I'm off council, which is very soon. So I just wanted to leave you with that. I'm hoping you'd be willing to come back as well.
Yeah, and we'll continue to hold the council's feet to the fire to get us back on the agenda in the future. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, appreciate the time. Appreciate the opportunity to get in front of you, and also community, appreciate the opportunity to serve your kids and do the best we can every day.
Thank you, and I'll be at your next meeting for the city report. Okay, now we have a report from Recreation Manager Joanne Plummer, the annual report for the Lompoc Aquatic Center and the Splash Pass.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, members of the public, both here at home and staff. Tonight I'm here to present the annual report for the Lompoc Aquatic Center. And as we go through this presentation, it's important to note that although our participation numbers are firm for the year, all numbers related to accounting are preliminary and unaudited at this time. Ta-da! Okay. So this slide just shows you at a glance kind of some of the program offerings that were at the Aquatic Center this year with a comparison of our participation from last fiscal year to this past year, fiscal year 2013-14. The Aquatic Center had a good year with the programs. There was an increase in nearly all of the offerings and in participation. Our swim lesson program is very popular and continues to be in high demand. Our number one complaint is that parents cannot always get into the class they want at the time they need.
Some of the highlights for the year, our occupancy increased nearly 4% from 143,862 to 149,155. The Tsunami Swim Team held their first swim meet. For the first time, the Los Padres League scheduled their season preliminary and final competitions for boys and girls water polo and swim seasons. CIF scheduled 7 competitive events with the facility this year. Maintenance closures were minimized due to program adjustment, keeping the facility open for most of the winter break. And Andrew Zavala joined our team as our senior building maintenance worker and is doing a great job. Just to expand a little on the competitions, those held at the Lompoc Aquatic Center have a direct impact on our economy. Every competition, with the exception of Lompoc versus Cabrillo, brings anywhere from 20 to 200 people from their own community to ours. These people are filling up their gas, stopping for dinner, and even running to Vaughn's next door to pick up some healthy snacks for their athletes. It's important to note that CIF competitions are not always Cabrillo or Lompoc high schools. San Ynez and St. Joseph High School have rented our facility in the past for their competitions because they simply love it. To expand a little on us filling our senior building maintenance worker position, this position was vacant for over 4 years, and that vacancy took its toll on our facility. Over the last 4 years, repairs have been emergency-based, and there was not sufficient time for a lot of preventive maintenance by staff, and when necessary, it was performed by contractors, which is extremely costly. This year, the team is working on a preventive maintenance plan and building relationships with our vendors and getting very familiar with our equipment. This slide shows kind of where our program customers are coming from, and 22% of them are coming from outside of our area. Out of that 22%, you see 12% coming from Vandenberg Village, Mission Hills area, 5% traveling from Vandenberg. But what's important to note is that most of our registered programs that this slide depicts meets 2 or 3 times a week. So this slide showing that 22% of all registered participants come from outside of the Lompoc city limits. So your aquatic center is bringing these people into town at least twice a week for something that they are choosing to do here. 10% of those are driving more than 20 miles to come to Lompoc. Again, at least twice a week. Our rental customers, this is one of my favorite slides because although we have a lot of renters from the Lompoc area, this slide shows that 60% of the people that are renting the aquatic center are coming from outside the area, outside of the Lompoc Valley, as you can see here. The rental program is very popular. Currently, we have opportunities to rent the facility 6 times a week. On an average, the pool is rented at least 3 times each weekend. The least common party time is Friday evenings and the late Saturday nights from 5 to 7 p.m. In fiscal year 2012-13, our rental revenues was $49,022. In the past fiscal year, 2013-14, our revenues from rentals increased to $63,504, and that is a 29.5% increase at $14,482. Some of the competitions held at the Aquatic Center, Lompoc High School, Cabrillo High School, and Tsunami Swim Team all utilized the Aquatic Center for practice and competitions, and this past year they used over 2,238.25 hours of pool time. The facility hosted 35 different competitive events and generated $6,984 in revenue from those competitive events. The competitions hosted by Lompoc and Cabrillo High School bring in spectator revenues. These spectators pay the clerk at the Aquatic Center upon entering the facility, and half of those revenues directly go to the Aquatic Center. The other half of the revenues are put towards the amount owed to the city by the high schools for the lifeguards present at their competitions and practices. So the $69.84 is just our half. This slide shows a little picture about where our revenues are coming from at the Aquatic Center. As you can see, the swim lesson program revenues took a significant hit. However, I can easily explain that for you. The very popular Splash Pass program can be used for swim lessons, water exercise classes, lap swim, and recreation swim. So once a client finds themselves participating in the programs on a regular basis, they quickly learn the benefits of the Splash Pass and transfer over. This year's revenues were up by $41,739, which is a 9.3% increase. I wanted to show you a few different areas of expense at the Aquatic Center. This first one shows our full-time and part-time salaries and benefits. And our full-time salaries increased because we hired our senior building maintenance worker, which will show a return on that investment in the coming years. The part-time salaries increased due to an increase in activity and adjusting programs to respond to high consumer demand for additional swim lessons. Here are some other expenses, and the reason that I wanted to show you this slide is to show you that there are things we have control over as expenses increase and things we don't. So as you see in program operations for things such as equipment, supplies, awards, in addition, other expenses like printing, training, we cut back as much as humanly possible, and we saw a cost savings. Other expenses just continue to rise. You see a savings in the pump room maintenance, but you'll also notice that you do not see a cost in 2012-13 for the dehumidification system. We had the dehumidification system. There was a cost. It was just charged off to the pump room maintenance. So there was, this last year working with our finance department, we pulled that out so that we can track that. The other cost that I wanted to show is the utility costs. Again, we have some control. We've done some modification here and there. We see a little tweaking and savings from time to time, but these costs continue to rise. Utilities have seemed to level out a little bit, but once we were able to repair a broken ceiling panel at the aquatic center, our dehumidification system did not need to run at 100% throughout the night, reducing our electrical costs. The increase in natural gas is attributed to the ceiling panel that was broken, releasing the warm air and the warm water right out of the facility and into the environment. The ceiling panel was fixed in early February, so we went 66% of last year with a panel that was stuck open. The vendor is located in Canada, and so in order to save repair costs and not be charged so much for travel, we scheduled the repair when the technician was already in the United States. So where did the funds come from the Aquatic Center? Well, it comes from user fees, the pool and park assessment, and the general fund allocation set at $210,000. This wheel shows you kind of how that makes up our total revenues of the Aquatic Center. As you'll learn a little bit later in the slide, but you can see here, we needed to dip again into our Aquatic Center reserves for an amount of $42,509. Something I wanted to point out to you is that the users of the Aquatic Center choose to spend nearly $500,000 in aquatic fitness and leisure programs and services, and in my opinion, that's a huge statement for our residents. The history of the support to the Aquatic Center, I know you're very familiar with this history, but I think it just shows a real big picture. As you can see, the last few years we've been static at the $210,000 from the general fund support. Prior to that, the budget cycle prior was $293,364. From that drop of the $293,364 and combining with the assessment, the pool and park assessment helps to fund some of the maintenance at the Aquatic Center, but the amount varies based on the actual assessments received. The total support for 2013-14 is down by $75,422 since we went from the $293 to the $210. If we were to look back at the total history of the support of the Aquatic Center, we would see that in the first full year of operation until now, our support is down a total of $157,068. So what are you getting for your $210,000 each year? This slide shows you kind of directly where some of that money is going. 100% towards our electrical costs, 100% towards our gas costs, and 80% of our water costs. In order for us to break even, we needed to help covering 100% of our chemical costs, 20% of our remaining water costs, and 43% of our sewer refuse costs. The fiscal impacts for the last fiscal year is our revenues increased by 9.3%, which is $41,739. Expenses increased 8.7%, $63,938. The net operating deficit was $42,509, which is an operating deficit percent of 5.8 of the operating budget. Unrestricted reserves on June 30, 2014 stood at $114,141. And at the close, because we've had to utilize those reserves to balance, our unrestricted reserve stands at $74,520. In fiscal year 2012-13, the Aquatic Center Fund was operating at a cost recovery rate of 60.8%, and this year's cost recovery rate is 61.1%. The Aquatic Center was able to utilize bond proceeds for the following items that were damaged by the lack of a dehumidification system. So we replaced a few items. We have made a few modifications, and things like our bleachers, the ADA doors, the ADA lifts, the lane lines, the sound system. We still have 2 that we are working on the bids to take care of those. The goals and the challenges for 2014-15. So one of the biggest challenges is the minimum wage going up twice in 18 months, the public demands related to primetime programming. Facility is nearly 10 years old, and all 3 pools will need to be resurfaced in the coming years. So on the minimum wage one, for our city operations here in Lompoc, the single most impacted division due to minimum wage increases and the Affordable Care Act is the Recreation Division, specifically the Aquatic Center. As program fees are market-driven, the city cannot recover the minimum wage cost increases simply by raising prices. And for those of you that don't know, we don't pay our lifeguards a whole lot, but that minimum wage costs everybody to go up $1, and then it's going up again in January of 2016. Although the easy response on our goals, increasing revenues through a combination of a review of fees and program adjustments, an adjustment to programming, preventive maintenance schedule on all of our equipment, and one of our goals is that our facility maintenance position conduct the dehumidification system preventive maintenance. We currently have a contract right now of $10,000 a year just to come in and maintain those units. On our goals, it's an easy response to say let's just increase fees, but it's important to note that the mandated increases in fees in 2009 resulted in a reduced participation, which we have been rebuilding over the past 5 years. A user fee study is in progress to identify any areas where fees may be increased without adversely affecting the total attendance. So, this is my second favorite slide because those faces are so cute. But that is all that I have for you. I'm sure you might have some questions for me.
Councilmember Starbuck?
I always have questions about the pool.
I know.
So during the budget, we were going to push to try and have our revenues increase 5% annually, which would have given us a cost recovery of 65.8, which we didn't achieve, but we went the opposite with a 5.8 decrease. That's what I'm reading in here. That's probably pretty true. With all the facts and figures, we still didn't make our 5% to the good on this.
We did have a revenue increase of 9.3% from last year.
But our expenses, again, were far more then. So
our expenses did increase at 8.7%, yes.
So we are still going to try and shoot for 5% next year where we can hit our 65.8 revenue recovery then. I would assume the council at that time will want to do that.
I can assure you that all the decisions that we make at the Aquatic Center related to programming and expenses, they're not made lightly. They are tossed around. We look at them and evaluate every means, see if we can do something a little bit cheaper. A prime example, one of our duck socks broke this week. So we were getting ready to order another one, and our senior building maintenance worker climbed up there, pulled the duck sock down, took it over to Bella's and said, can you do anything with this? And they said, we can fix it and it won't break again. And so having that local resource, spending our money locally instead of having to order from our vendor, those are great ways that the team continually thinks through things. So yes, our goal is to recover as much as humanly possible to even turn a profit. That would be our goal. And so every decision we make, we try to achieve that goal.
Well, $210,000 is a pile of money we could use in other places, and I think the long-term goal at the budget hearing was to try and lessen that. I'll move on to some basic questions. When is the free swim? I am asked all the time, when is the pool open? That is something that no matter what we've done and advertised, we have not captured the attention of the public on the pool. The other question is, why do we always close the pool during the Christmas break when the kids are out? So these are items that I think still need to be addressed by recreation. It's not reaching the public, the citizens, but obviously we're reaching the outlying areas around us because they're using it more than us. The one question I still have, our therapy pool, 91 degrees, somewhere in there?
Yes.
How many people a day use this?
It fluctuates with all the pools. It fluctuates. It's ironic. This weekend we had some amazing numbers at the aquatic center, and it was hot. But it's always hot inside the aquatic center. So we're still trying to educate people to tell them no matter how cold it is outside, it's still beautiful inside. And that's an ongoing marketing strategy. We have slim back the amount of hours that pool is available based on use, but we have consumers now asking us to open it more often because it's getting too crowded in that pool. So it depends on the time of the day. It is open, that pool is open a couple days a week, in the morning and in the noontime hour, and then that is the first pool to close in the evening time.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious because of all the pools, that is probably the most expensive single entity in the center to operate, I would guess, based upon the amount of water, the temperature that you maintain it at. If we're only using it for exercise in the morning and occasional days, is it worth keeping it at that level and not bringing it down and turning it into a open swim from open to close time? You know, it's just a question here. It just seems like that would be the one to cut the utilities, the gas, the electricity, if we were going to do something in there.
Well, if you were to ask me which pool costs the most money, my professional opinion would be the recreation pool. And that's one of the pools that's the most heavily utilized. So the therapy pool does cost us some money, but that is an extremely valuable asset to have in Lompoc. There is not another therapy pool in Lompoc. And we are having doctors and rehabilitation specialists referring clients to the pool for use. And people are coming from different areas because there's not very many therapy pools that are open to the public.
Got to charge Medicare then.
We actually looked into Medicare billing, and it's cost prohibitive from our staff standpoint. The next goal would be to try to find a grant that can pay for a staff person to do that.
I guess my last question is I don't want to just go into this and, we have budget later, but it says all three pools will need to be resurfaced in the coming years. What are we going to do to set aside money for that? What is our contingency plan later on?
We're going to ask you to write a personal check. I'm just kidding. It's our goal to use the majority of the money in our reserves. We don't want to have to dip into our reserves each year. We had to this year. We had some costs that we couldn't, some expenses that rose that we had no control over. So we're continuing to tweak and adjust. So we're hoping to use our reserves, but there is concern for depleting the reserves. So we've been working with finance, and we are trying to strategize a plan for that. And to answer, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, to answer your other questions regarding recreation swim, the Aquatic Center is open every Saturday and Sunday throughout the year with the exception of the 2 small closures that we have, which is from 1 to 3 p.m. During the summer, we're open every day of the week, 1 to 3, 2 nights on the week, on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the evening. And then on Friday, late afternoons, we're open during the school year. And then we are open every day the kids are out of school, which I believe they're out on Monday, so we'll be open on Monday. And during the winter closure, we drastically reduced our closure. We have to have closure. We saw a lot of people through those doors, and you can't go in and drain the pool and work on the pool when you're open to the public. So we have to have time that we can shut off the heaters, maintain them, shut off the filters, and that takes time. This year we had to rebuild a couple of the heaters, so we've shifted our closure. We need 4 weeks. We've shifted it, so we're doing it the end of the summer, which is right after the kids go back to school. We shut down for 10 days, and then right around the Christmas time, we're shutting down for 10 days. And your team is out there working Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and the day after to make sure that we can open up as soon as humanly possible.
You said open swim was from 1 to 3?
Yes.
That's it, 2 hours a day?
2 hours a day, yes. And the kids leave exhausted, because they're constantly going. Our facility has so many interactive opportunities. They're constantly going. They're not playing just Marco Polo like in the old pool when you only had one pool, but they're running up the slide, walking.
Yeah, but we were in that pool from 8 to 5. So.
That's why he's a little waterlogged. He spent too much time in the pool. Councilmember Lingle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is enjoyable going second because, Joanne, usually I'm pretty tough on you with the finances and everything. So I'm glad Councilmember Starbuck was hard on you. So it's a good cop, bad cop today. He gave all the bad news. I just want to thank you. I mean, it's tough. We continually get comments or compliments about our aquatic center. We mentioned the therapy pool. It was the last week or so, I had several people mention that they were coming from out of town specifically to use our therapy pool. So it probably is expensive, but the reward to the people that really need it, it's probably, as they say, priceless. But I just want to thank you. I think you're doing a great job. I see Jeff back there, and Jeff, you're doing a great job too. Thank you. Anyway, he did the bad cop, I'll be the good cop. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Councilor Costa.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. Thank you for the report. Really great to see that, revenues were increasing, those darn expenses, though. I wanted to just ask a little bit, because you piqued my interest with the Canadian vendor, and I'm assuming that this thought process was done, which is, what's the cost of the lost heat versus the cost of the repair? Like if we were to get them out, have gotten them out immediately, and if there's thought into, having the benefits of local vendor, just like you said, having someone local, even within the state, or somebody that's more accessible. And I know that when there's a cost up front, we say, okay, how can we get this done in the most cost-effective manner? But maybe if we're in, 1 to 2 to 3% variance, but you have a local vendor, perhaps that's something we could consider. Is that, what is the thought process through that?
For that particular repair, we unfortunately didn't notice, it was opening and closing, just kind of getting a little bit more rough. And so we were communicating with the vendor in that fall season before we hit the cooler weather. And then sure enough, Murphy's Law, right when the cold weather hit, we wanted to shut it tight and keep it shut. And it wouldn't shut. It just went, and it went slow, and it stopped, and it just was not going to move. So it went from coming out to take a look at it, maybe do a little bit of maintenance on it, to having to replace the tracks entirely. So there is not a local vendor, to our knowledge. When we built the facility, there were only 2 vendors out there, and they were both from different countries. So as the popularity increases for these glass enclosures and indoor facilities, because we were on the cutting edge, maybe we'll see somebody local pop up that could maintain those. But again, it wasn't just come out and put some WD-40 on it. It was having to pull the whole panel, replace the tracks with new tracks, and come back in and fix it. So, and it was going back and forth, and because we were on somebody else's schedule, we thought we actually had them set for repair during our closure in December, and then they called it off and postponed us quite a few times.
And so in your crystal ball, is the assumption that the Aquatic Center is still looking at the city subsidy of $210,000, or do you think that there's going to be a request for an additional amount of money?
We're right now taking a look to see how we're going to be impacted across the board with the next increase in wages, and we're putting that information together now. So I want to keep it at 210. That's what our goal would be, but I really won't know until we go through this budget process. And we are under, again, that user fee study that's going on right now, and we're hoping that that's going to be able to provide us some insight, that something maybe we didn't see, or something that we can do a little bit better.
And if anyone has any questions about the Aquatic Center, can they find the brochure online?
Our brochure is online, right on the homepage, cityoflompoc.com. And if you want any other specifics, you can always call our office, and all of our ladies will be happy to help you, or stop by the Aquatic Center. Jeff and his team do a great job over there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Holmdahl.
Yeah, very quickly, your report was very good. Glad you brought it up and such. The one thing about it, and the number of people coming to town from outside of the area, they also spend money someplace else. They'll come over, they'll drop the kids off at the pool, and the parents either go to a restaurant or go someplace else. So you're getting a tax dollar along with it. See, it's hard to figure that out, but you're just bringing people in from all over, even from around the area. So I think the pool, I've enjoyed the pool. I've been down there. My wife and I have been there several times in the afternoon and using the heated pool. It is nice just to lay there and do nothing. But
that's not the goal. We want you to move when you're in the pool.
Are you supposed to move? Oh, sure. But anyway, the pool is good. You've had a lot of things go, bring it back in. We got the ceiling working better and all the rest stuff. But I think what we have is something excellent. That's why everybody comes to Lompoc to see the aquatic pool, because there isn't anything like it in the Central Coast. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne, just, the thumbnail estimate, what do you think having that window open cost you that you're not going to have to deal with next year?
You know, I couldn't even fathom to guesstimate. What we are doing right now is we're kind of going through, now that Andrew's with us and we have a maintenance person on hand, he's taken a look at our air handling system in the facility itself, because right now how it was configured is not necessarily conducive with cost-saving measures. It's kind of either on or it's off, or you can have, it's the fans in the locker rooms are attached to the lights. So we want to shut the lights off because we have all those beautiful glass ceiling panels, let the natural light in, but we still need the fan going for the ventilation in there. So he's working on shifting some of those things, and again, wherever we can find, whatever rock we can turn to try to tweak and get a cost savings in there, that's our goal.
Okay, and there have been some comments from some of the seniors that there weren't enough steps for step aerobics. Do we have some more coming?
You know, I am very glad that you mentioned that, because you're right. They're 8 years old. They're dying off, basically. And a couple of years ago in the last, not the users, the steps are dying off. But I saw where you were going with that. However, the steps, when we entered the last budget cycle, we tried to put in some replacement money for steps. That replacement money was a moot point, because when we tried to find a vendor to get a cost, they weren't making them anymore. We tried all of our different vendors. We tried general searches. They weren't making aqua steps. So obviously, they're not lasting very long. There was a problem with how they were constructed. So in recent years, they've started making them again. We don't have a budget line item for them. So on November 7th and 8th, we are having a craft show and wine tasting event at the rec center. And all the proceeds will benefit equipment replacement for programs at the aquatic center. So the number one thing is to have new steps, and we're working with our instructor and our participants. And then the second one is to buy fins for our swim lesson program.
And what was the date and time and location?
November 7th and 8th at the Anderson Recreation Center. On the 7th, it'll be from 4 to 8 p.m., and on the 8th, it'll be from 11 to 4. And it's all homemade crafts, so no commercial items will be there. Our community has called out and said they're tired of commercial items. They want handmade crafts, so we're having that. We are still accepting applications, by the way, for crafters if you are interested. Everything's on our website, cityof.lompoc.com.
Thank you very much, and thank you for that paid political announcement.
Thank you.
We didn't conspire on that at all. Okay, next we have Recreation Manager Mario Guerra to present an annual report on the Dick DeWeese Community and Senior Center. Mario?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council, members of the audience. Tonight, I will provide the council with the annual report related to the fiscal operations, facility rentals, and senior programs at the Dick DeWeese Community and Senior Center. And the report will outline senior programs and expenses, facility expenses, facility revenue, and occupancy for the second full year of operations. Thank you. And we'll start off with our senior programs. Our senior programs at the Dick DeWeese Center, we operate Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. But we do have staff there at 7 a.m. to get the facility ready for the day of programming. And some of our, as listed, our most popular programs, we have a Mac user and a tech literacy class, trip and fall workshops, and our drop-in billiard programs. Senior programs, to put on all these programs, we have to work with our collaborative partners. The city provides space at no charge to host senior services for the Lompoc Valley. Each of these collaborative partners provides instructions and in-kind supplies at no cost to the seniors or the city, but it is important to note that the city is providing an in-kind facility expense, which equates annually to about $62,000 a year during that time of operation, Monday through Friday. It also is an important note that all of the senior programs are free to eligible participants, and that the city's contribution is the providing the coordination and the collaborative coordination for the agencies and the partners. And again, it does nearly take about 30 collaborative partners to produce the level of senior programs that we have today at the center. But as you can see, out of those partners, we have Allen Hancock College, the Community Action Commission, and our ARP, Safe Driving and Tax Services, are some of the most popular. Some of our senior program highlights. In 2012-13 fiscal year, we had 37,700 seniors to take part in our programs. This year, we've seen a 3.8% increase, which equated to 39,188 seniors using our programs throughout the week. Three of our most popular programs are our senior nutrition program, which is held in our multi-purpose room, which serves 6,600 meals this year. Our strength training program, which is held in our banquet room, which is a real popular program, and it served 4,121 participants. And also our brown bag program, that's twice a month, that fed 4,272 participants this year. Our facility rental program. We break our facility rental program into three categories. The first category is our classroom rentals. This type of rentals would be our meetings, trainings. Allen Hancock, they have classes. Lompoc Unified School District conducts trainings. Anybody who just wants to come in and rent a room for the day, that would be in that category. In 2012-13, we had 275 bookings, and this year, fiscal year, we had 289, a 4.9% increase. The second would be our long-term rental agreements. We're still at 2 for this current year, which is our CAC rental and a church rental on Sundays. But as a side note, staff has secured an additional long-term rental agreement for this upcoming fiscal year, which started in our facility in September, and it's the community partners in Caring, and they'll be renting a space from us at the building. Our third group is our banquet and event rentals, and in 2012 and 13 we had 40 banquet and event rentals, and this year we had a 16% increase with 48 banquet and event rentals. And then these are your weddings, your anniversaries, your quinceañeras. Special events would be like our Oktoberfest, our Lompoc Recreation and Pal Poker event, which is in the middle, our empty bowls. We had a Healthy Lompoc Summit that this past fiscal year that was very popular. And as you can see below the pictures, in 2012 and to 2013, we had 33 Saturday rentals out of 52 available Saturdays, with a total out of all the rental revenue was $69,892. In 2013 and 14, we had 34 Saturday rentals out of 46 available Saturdays, with a $76,283 rental revenue. And again, this is an 8.4% increase in rental revenue with a 6-week closure due to the sewer line repair that was at the Dick Dewey Center this past fiscal year. Getting into the revenue and expenses, this slide here depicts a 10-year look at the general fund support to the fund 62,000, and the yellow bars are the amount needed to balance. And as you can see, since 2003-04, the general fund subsidy did cover the amount of the expense to break even. The 2008-2009, there was an increase because that was the year that we shut down the Lompoc Valley Community Center, and the rental revenues for that year were basically non-existent on that year. And from our first year of operation at the Dick Dewey Center, you can see in this year there was a significant drop in the amount needed to balance. Diving into the actual expenses at the center, one of our biggest expenses is our senior program, the recreation coordinator position that oversees our senior services and our day-to-day operations at the community center. When this position began in 2001-2 at the Lompoc Valley Community Center, it was a part-time 30-hour-a-week position, but we quickly realized that through the amount of senior services and the amount of programs that we built here in town, then that we needed to turn that position into full-time, which we did about 2 years after that. And then throughout time, it's just increased over the years. There was a salary survey that was done, and there was an equity adjustment made to the recreation coordinator position. But throughout time, you'll see the expense from salary and benefit. And as you know, during budget times, the insurance and PERS has bumped that position up. But over the last 2 years, that position has been more than the actual allocation that was given by the general fund. Another big expense then that we have at the Dick DeWeese Center is our utility cost. This slide kind of depicts I added here the 2007 and 2008, our last operation year at the Lompoc Valley Community Center. As you can see, that expense for all the utilities was $14,337. And then in our first year of operations at the new Dick DeWeese Center, it's $42,432. We've been making adjustments throughout the building to try to lower our utility cost. Just a couple things that we have done. One of our biggest expenses is our heating and air costs. So what we do, typical day that we will keep our air conditioning units between 67 and 73 degrees and let the natural air kind of heat and cool. And if it gets below 67, the heaters will come on. If it gets above 73, then they'll come down. But we do adjust it for certain programs and rentals on a need basis, and especially if it's requested by our renter. So we do adjust that, but that's about 25% of our overall operational budget. This slide here just depicts our full-time, again, but then our part-time salaries. Part-time salaries are basically then that we have some control over to an extent. As you can see from this year, we did drop a little bit in our part-time salaries with the revenue increases then that we've seen and our rental increases. This is from how we staff the different events, really looking at the events, what they need, what can we get away with, 2 or 3 staff at events, 4 or 5. So really just taking a look on then how we staff special events or rentals. The other aspect would be the Dick DeWeese Center being a larger facility. When we do have events, there is a requirement just so we can keep a safe and orderly fashion, then we have the appropriate staff there. One aspect at the Dick DeWeese Center that we do now is that we shut our building down after senior programs if we have no other rentals going on in the building at that time. The Dick DeWeese Center is not a drop-in facility. It's a facility only open when there are programs or rentals that are going on. So that's an adjustment that we made at the building, and it's shown some reduction in part-time costs. This slide here basically gives you an overview of our revenue versus expense. The orange bar on the bottom is our general fund allocation. The yellow bar is the revenues that we brought in from user fees, rentals, programs, trainings, etc. And the nice purple line is the reserves that we had to use out of our out of our 62,000 fund reserves. Our first year we had to use 32,586, and this year we had to use only 14,276. And This slide here gets us into some good news about the building. The facility benefits from bond proceeds. The items listed through bond proceeds were to complete the furnishings of the Dick DeWee Center and Senior Center that weren't in the original construction package. These items will enhance and attract new and exciting rental opportunities. Many of these items were utilized and featured at the 2014 Ag Summit on September 12th, and we've received numerous positive comments from the coordinating partners as well as participants from the events. But we're real excited about the audio and visual projectors and sounds. It just brings a whole new element to our rentable aspects for conferences, trainings, weddings, etc. So we're real excited about that. And again, we do have linens, tablecloths, and skirts for all occasions. And we did purchase the culinary equipment to fully outfit our kitchen, so renters, people won't have to bring in their own pots, pans, etc. And our 2014 and 15 goals and challenges. As mentioned in the Aquatic Center report, a citywide user fee study is in progress to identify any areas where fees may be increased without adversely affecting potential renters. So goal one, again, is possible rate increases versus affordability in all program areas or rental opportunities. Again, increase revenue, but with that, we want to decrease expense so we can get a bigger net profit for that, so we can get that general fund allocation down. And again, enhance opportunities for programs and rentals with our new audio and visual equipment. And our challenges, again, with minimum wage increases, we're just going to have to be the creative on then how we staff our buildings and our fees. One of our biggest challenges at the center is we do not have an equipment replacement fund. So anything that we buy at the center, for example, some of our chairs do need to be replaced due to stains and rips. Anything that we do equipment replacement at the building will be indicated in the overall bottom line of our budget. And again, one of our major challenges is senior programming during the week conflicting with weekday rental opportunities. We do get calls on possible trainings or conferences, multi-day type of things, but again, we have to look at what we have going on in the building. How often do we displace senior programs? And if we can move one or two to accommodate, we do that, but if it's displacing so many senior programs for a long period of time, that's something that as staff then that we take into consideration. Our senior programming is increasing, and with the increased senior programs, there is an increased cost with the building, and again, without a revenue return for senior programming. When we do have a lot of back-to-back senior programming, sometimes we have to bring in extra staff throughout the day to try to break down a room, set up our next room so it's ready for our next program. And so that's one of our major challenges. One of the major challenges also that's not listed, and I think it's going to be brought up, is our marketing. Anything then that we do to market our facility is charged to the bottom line of our budget for that building. We did get into Central Coast the bridal this year, and we had seen some increases in emails and calls from that. But again, every time we put something in a paid advertisement, that goes to our overall expense. So that is an overview of this year's fiscal year of the Dick DeWee Center, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Mario, what do you think your revenue loss was from the time that your portion of your facility was closed for the sewer mess? Just a guesstimate. Small number, big number, medium number?
I'd probably say it was relatively, maybe a few $1,000s.
Okay. Councilmember Lingle.
I'm not going to be a bad cop. Mario, I'm glad you brought up the marketing, because that was a question I had. Because on a weekly basis, we get a report from the city administrator, and it usually talks about the number of rentals. And my question was, it seems like it's always the same, pretty much the same number. Are these rentals that are ongoing, or are they new rentals each week, or that number that I see every week, what are they?
A lot of them are just ongoing rentals. Hancock College, there's a lot of people that have weekday type of meetings. So those are the type during the week. Our marketing is geared towards trying to get the events and the weekend rentals or the banquet type of rentals, so we can get those in to the building also. But we have facility brochures that are online. So it's a lot of marketing online, city website. If they come into our centers, we have brochures, then they can pick up there, and those are online also.
Okay. I talked to the people at the museum. I was talking to them the other day, and marketing came up. And I told them there's many ways that we can get free marketing, okay? PSAs are always available at radios and television stations. Using TAP TV, we could get something on TAP TV. In the local newspapers, the About Town and the Lompoc Record, anytime we have an event or something special, just go ahead and we should try to get something in there. Just make people always aware that we have the facility there and it's always available. So anything we can do free naturally would not go to your, take off your bottom line. But I think marketing is important. Councilmember Humdahl, when I was at the hospital, always complained that we never marketed at the hospital. And I had excuse for him, but that's okay. The thing is, it really does pay to advertise. So, I mean, set aside something in your budget, get some marketing out there, especially right now, the Veterans Center, the Veterans Center, they've just recently, when the county raised all their rates, so you probably have a big opportunity to get people that were using the Vet Center for their events to come and take a second look at us. So definitely, just get the word out there. Definitely. Okay. Thanks a lot, Mario.
Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. The one thing I want to talk about a little bit was the sewer incident as well, because I think that the lost revenue wasn't necessarily during the closure, but maybe because there was some discussion in the community about the issues, and that may be lost revenue in the future from non-booked weekends. It's like the worst case scenario when you have prom and a girl in a prom dress who says that the bottom got wet with sewage. I mean, it was like, I heard about it over and over again. And as you know, the event that I held there, we had a similar experience. And so I think that we probably need to start doing some outreach to try to counter that. Not just that the lost revenue was during that weekend, but that we may see some of that reflected in the future. It sounds like it's kind of gone away and people kind of accepted what it was, but I think another reason why, that marketing thing, or if it's reaching out and giving them a discount to get them back and get that reputation going, and I know that's tough because you're worried about revenue, but that would be a case where if you came back and told us, look, we bit the bullet, but it's better for our reputation, I would be fine with that. So I would agree, this report is good. It kind of gives us a good outline. It's a bummer that there's still an amount needed that we don't have in revenues. But I do think you're doing the right thing with all the community collaborations, because if the community really embraces this space, I think it'll get more widely used. Everyone's kind of knowing about it and seeing it. And I have to say the Ag Summit was phenomenal. I mean, the facility was really, really well presented to the community at that event. And so I think that the more that continues, we'll definitely get some more rentals going on that way. But thank you.
And a side note, we did get one prom back so far. We're just waiting for the other one. Yeah.
Since the subject has been breached, perhaps you could talk about our little sewage issue so everybody understands what we all know.
We did have a sewage backup at the Dick DeWeese the center. It was out of our control. It was due to a piping issue underground. We did replace a 10-section foot of piping, so that problem won't arise again. It's a section's complete, but there was a broken part that was there, and there was some backup in the pipes that just kept catching stuff. So, but that has been fixed, and we shouldn't see a problem for the future.
City Administrator.
Yeah, and just to echo that, I just want to emphasize, because I think it is important to have the word out there. It was basically a structural design error that just took some time. There was a time delay from when we opened the facility till it presented itself. And so, in essence, the design deficiency has been corrected. So from that aspect, it was a one-time issue, and we shouldn't expect to re-experience that sort of thing. That having been said, part of what could have been helping us realize we had a design deficiency was some things maybe being flushed down that shouldn't have been flushed down as well. So our we still always got, as any public facility would have, you still have the possibility that people use toilets for things for other than what they're designed for. So it's very important. The cue I give, whether we're talking about the Dewey Center or any other facility, including here, is 1, 2, and TP, and that's it. Nothing else in there.
We do have some signs up in all our bathrooms now of what's expected for the consumer. So.
Well, and I say that because some people think personal hygiene items or whatever are eligible to go down, and just in your homes or at public facilities, please don't do that. Dispose them in another manner in the trash or whatever.
So if you use Clorox reusable wipes in your house and you flush them, it's going to be a bad decision.
Even if the packaging and marketing say flushable, they are not.
They are not.
It won't work.
Yeah. You will end up with a problem. Councilmember Holmdahl.
Yeah, it goes back to marketing, and you got to let people know that you had this kind of an event. You should have, as soon as the job was done, out there really advertising. We got it cleaned up. It's not going to happen again. We know what we did, and if you don't market it, nobody's going to find out about it. Bring the paper down, run an article of that, run your own article, put it on TAP TV, get it on the Chamber of Commerce, whatever it is. You've got to market. It's a business, and the only way people know what's going on is by marketing.
Definitely.
Councilmember Starbuck.
Yeah, just real quick, you mentioned the purchase of all the culinary equipment, we've outfitted the kitchen and everything else. Who does the inventory on all that equipment and gear there? If you come in, who?
Myself and our recreation coordinator.
So there is some kind of a sheet that's physically checked on that, because some of that's very expensive, and you would hate it to walk out of the door or clean up.
It's under lock. So when somebody does rent the facility and they want to use certain pans, then they're checked out with our staff at the beginning of the night, and at the end of the night they're put back.
That's a good thing. And I wanted to also toss in there, the flagpole is a beautiful addition to that center. Finally.
Thank you.
And the city administrator did an outstanding job polishing the plaque. Just so putting my small business owner hat on, in my world, we plan 5% of our income stream for advertising, and that gets about a 4-to-1 return. So you probably want to talk to the budget powers that be and get a little more advertising money, because usually $4 come back for every one that goes out if you put it in the right place. Okay. Thank you, Mario. Appreciate it. Good progress. Good things. And now we have the city administrator's report, an update from the Lompoc Investment Committee.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick things before we get to our investment committee report. First of all, I just wanted to highlight an event we had this last Saturday at Fire Station 1. We had an open house with our fire service, and we had, I believe the estimate was somewhere around 800 kids plus parents and others that attended, and it was just great opportunity to do some fire safety training at various points, how to, our new education trailer, how to get out of a building safely, what to look for and how to avoid those fires, fire extinguisher use, CPR training, a bunch of other fun and engaging and educational activities for the kids and the entire family for that matter. Also appreciate that Lompoc Foursquare Church was out there providing free hot dogs, cotton candy, popcorn, water, snow cones, all that kind of stuff. On a very hot day, the snow cones were great. So I hear. I didn't get one, but so I hear. And thanks to Home Depot for their presence there, and just everyone who came out and helped. I know some of you were there, and thank you very much for your attendance. I just think it was a fantastic event, and really impressed how much of the community turned out on that. I just thought it was wildly successful. Also, just want to give you the heads up, there's a League of California Cities Tri-County Dinner coming up on October 24th, and if any of you are caring to attend, if you just let me know, and we'll take care of arrangements. Finally, with that, I think I'm going to conclude my portion and ask Dean Albert to come up and give us an update report on the City of Lompoc Investment Committee. I think this is some of our best news of the night. So
it's good to hear somebody excited about stuff that I'm very excited about. Well, I'm going to do an update on investments. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Last year, I was missing something. Oh, anyways, last year we came with our investment policy, and it's missing a lot of key things in there, and I don't know why that happened. But anyways, we wanted to, we came with some basic objectives. There we go. We wanted to make sure we safeguard the principle of our investments, that we have enough liquidity to make sure we can make our going obligations, and that we can maximize our return based upon our policies that we have. But we also came with some other suggestions in our staff report that we would set up CalTrust, we would do our own investments and invest beyond LAIF, and I'll explain a little bit more about what LAIF really is, and reestablish our oversight committee. We met for the first time July 1st, and one of the things we did is we looked at some cities. We took 6 cities, and 3 of them around here, Santa Maria, Santa Barbara, San Luis, and then we took some outside that were big cities that managed their own investment pool, Oxnard, Costa Mesa, and Redding. And what you notice, I wanted to point out here, is if you look at these two, these are our cash, and LAIF is very liquid investment, so you can get it very quickly. So those are kind of like not long-term investments. So if you look at it, it's about 28%. And if you look at the other side, these are all the investments that most of those cities were doing. Get an idea of what we wanted to do as a strategy. So what did we do? One of the things we did is we invested $12.25 million as our initial investment to start this investment pool. We did it in a layer fashion. If you see, we did it so the maturities are every year. One of the things we did with our investment pool, this $12.25 million, is we got 173.8 plus annual interest and 1.42 as a rate of return. And if you want to look over here too, we have on the, I don't know if you can see that very well, but what we invested in was FDIC certificates and security. So we're very secure, very conservative in what we invested in. And just to do a little math and give you an idea of how effective this is when we get it totally into play, is the 5-year rate's about 2%. So if you see that 1.42, do some math, it's going to be about $250,000 when it goes forward, and this is fully into play. And it'll take about 4 years to get it fully into play.
And if I could add at this point, as a matter of comparison, I know for some people they're looking and going, well, 1.42, that's not a whole lot. But the comparison is we were just under 0.25% when we were exclusively in LAIF. So the movement, given we have to protect our safety, our liquidity before we worry about yield, this is quite a dramatic move, and it means, that's direct cash, and this is only our first step into that with a few more steps to take. Thanks.
So what effect does that have on our current budget? Compared to last year, we're going to see about 125,000 plus in interest above. I think that was like almost the whole amount we made for our whole portfolio last year. But also wanted to point out that it's about 15.5 going back to the general fund. And give you an idea too, we fully get the layering effect going. That'll probably be closer to 80 or 90,000, which is a full position. If you think about it, it's some good news. Like the boss said, 0.21 is what our city pool investment return was. And we more than doubled it by just doing that small increment. Moving forward, we want to keep the same strategy, layer our investments, make sure we can have enough money, keep it safe. We're estimating that we're going to probably try and keep in LAIF and cash about $15 million, which is about 28% of our portfolio. And it's really pretty much I just wanted to give you an update. We said we'd come back and let you know how we're doing. And if you had any questions, that's all I really had.
How's your investment with the second round going?
It's doing good. We had a little peak of some interest rates. We got a little bit of it, but then, Europe kind of pulled it back, and I'm waiting a little bit on the second half of our second. Well, anyways, just going to be conservative and keep an eye on interest rates in the news, what's going on. Hoping that when Yellen starts talking, that the interest rates usually go up because everybody's afraid of inflation. So. But, we want to get the layering, and I think that's the most important thing, is get that layering effect. So we'll keep going back to the 5-year maturities instead of what we had to layer it in 2, 3, and 4. So that's some good news.
What's the additional amount you guys are going to put in?
We're going to just keep an eye on how much we need in cash. That's why I pointed out that number. Probably 2.5, maybe 3 times that investment. A lot of the money that we have in our investment pool is earmarked for certain things, and we have to keep it in certain areas, so we can't touch it, like for bond stuff. And so we're going to have to keep an eye on. And it was a good time for us to meet. We just met in September 4th, and it was a good time because we just paid all our big debts, our like bonds and leases and everything, so we get an idea of where our bottom is. So. And that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, because challenges come, and we always have challenges when it comes to money. We're going to have to keep an eye on where that level is. So,
Councilmember Lingle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report. Thank you for taking a conservative approach. I was just showing the city administrator. For those of you that have your investments in the stock market, the Dow Jones was down almost 300 points today, and I think it was down yesterday and the day before. So even the 1.42%. It's looking pretty good right now if you have it in the stock market.
And it does affect the interest rates too, and they put those securities out when the market's down. They pull them down too. Sometimes it helps. It goes the other way around, and people are bailing, and people go the other route. But it's kind of right now. It's kind of what's happening in the world.
And I do want to emphasize, you saw a couple times in Dean's presentation the words safety, liquidity, and yield, and I just want to emphasize how critical that is for us. With your personal finances, you can choose to make different priorities, but we have a fiduciary responsibility to, first and foremost, the safety is to make sure that we're not at risk, that the funds that are collected are being preserved and protected. Then liquidity, we have to make sure that the timing of our ability to access money matches our particular needs and our cash flow needs of operating the various businesses that we do. And then only after all that's considered can we then try to achieve the best returns on investment we can, given that we don't sacrifice either the safety or the liquidity issues. And the investment committee has been very diligent in that regard in keeping with those principles and protecting that. We've got a little bit of time and distance, but some of us still remember from about a little over 20 years ago, an issue that went on with the Orange County and their investment pool. I was a a chief financial officer for a public agency at that point, and I remember getting approached saying, look how much, we mostly had our money in LAIF, which at that time paid a little better, like around 5.5% or something, but, we're getting lured to invest in Orange County that was experiencing, like, I remember 18.5%, but also recognizing, wow, it looks, can I see the list of your portfolio? Because I didn't know how they were doing that. And I can see there were some things that, I didn't think they were protecting the safety side of things, and we chose not to participate. Thank goodness, because it wasn't too long after that the collapse came along. We are not, as we go into the types of marketplace you're talking about, it is not, I just want to give the assurance, it is not that Orange County from 20 years ago type of approach. This is much more conservative and doesn't violate that safety, liquidity, yield criteria.
Brad, you have something to add?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I just want to follow up on what City Administrator said. Is part of the Oversight Committee's responsibility is to make sure that we follow our policy, and a policy dictates what we can invest in. The 5-year lookout that Dean showed, that's the maximum we can do under our policy. The investments that were on the pie chart, those are the type of investments that we're able to invest in. We can't go invest in things that are in the stock market. We're limited to things that are safe and secure, and so we live within this bracket, and we're doing what we can to increase our revenues to be able to offset our investment costs and to bring some money back into the general fund. So, yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, before we go to oral communications, we will take a 10-minute break because we're 2 hours in. Yep, there's the tap. So, we're going to start oral communications with anyone who is not here to talk about the swap meet. And just state your name.
My name is Nicholas Gonzalez, resident of Lompoc. One of the questions that I have that would be nice if in the reports, since we had a bunch of spreadsheets and numbers, probably the ones that would more able to answer this would be Councilman Homedal or Lingle. But when we built the senior center, the community center, and the swimming pool, we used RDA bond funding, which then is paid back. It's like taking a home on your mortgage. In this case, the city took a loan on future tax increment. So one of the things I'd like to know is how much have we finally spent on the 2 buildings, and how much is the annual debt service of tax increment? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get that number for you. Anyone else on a subject other than the swap meet? Okay, and now I would invite, Now I invite Mike first. Mike, you want to tell us give us an update? You got a spokesman? Yeah. All right, come on down. So, are you guys the committee?
Yes.
All right, good things.
Well, first off, thank you for letting us speak tonight. We really do appreciate that. Before we begin, I'd like to just introduce the newly formed Lompoc Swap Meet Committee. We're a group of dedicated vendors and local residents who consist of myself, Josh Ruiz, my wife, Shauna, Angel Garcia, Rico Tovar, Pedro Hernandez, and Mike Ross. As a committee, we've come up with a solution to the current agendas regarding the swap meet. First and foremost, we would ask that the swap meet itself be relocated to the opposite area facing Ocean Avenue. This act alone would address the following points, which Pedro will address.
Good evening. My name is Pedro Hernandez. Most of the complaints every time we're here in the meetings is about the noise, about the trash, and the parking problems. We think that by moving the swap meet by the parking lot facing Ocean Avenue, we'll be able to isolate the noise. I know that bothers the neighborhood, and on that area, we don't see that many homes. So we think it would be a great idea to move the swap meet there. Also, as a committee, we have committed ourselves to clean up trash every swap meet day. And we have also have members of the community that have come to us and offered their help because they do not want the swap meet to be closed. So we, the committee, are here tonight to ask the city council members and the mayor to meet with us and negotiate a contract. And that's what we're asking tonight.
Okay, the one issue that we have is we're not agendized to talk about it, which is a legal requirement. So what we'll have to do is after you guys, probably a couple more of you have something to say, why don't we stop the clock for a minute so we can work on this?
We pretty much said everything that we wanted to get out there about it. I mean, there's other benefits and everything, of course, but this is kind of the layout for the whole thing.
Well, if you got a little bit more you want to throw in, you probably want to do that because we're going to have to talk about making a decision excluding you as usual.
Are you going to do that?
No, we're going to take testimony for a few more minutes, then we'll run you off as usual. He says he won't come back. Okay, any other points you want to make?
We just, we would like to, like I said, to meet with the members of the city council and with the mayor and negotiate a contract. You set the rules and regulations and we'll work to enforce them. And also what I would like to say is that we would like to meet on a regular basis to see what we need to improve or see how we're doing. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, anybody else in the group have
listening
something
to us.
say?
Just wanted to highlight one more point, and that point, of course, was that as a committee, we make decisions as a committee. It doesn't just fall down to one person. So any issues that we have to address during that month, we can meet as a committee, discuss them, and make sure they're taken care of as needed. So just wanted to make sure that that was perfectly clear, too, that we operate as a whole.
Yeah, I think one issue would have to be discussed with the staff is how we would have an organizational structure we'd have to have, assuming we decide to go down that road.
Right.
Okay, anybody else have something to say? Last chance? Okay, one thing I didn't get was, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have just a couple things. Mike Ross, U.S. Navy retired, and I would like to thank everybody for trying to do the best that we can to keep the swap meet going while we're trying to find another place. So far, it has been impossible to do, and we appreciate what you've done. All of our vendors' license expired December 31st for the food, the vegetables, and all this kind of stuff. So we would at least like to have that taken into consideration, and I really do appreciate y'all's time, and I thank you. And I wasn't here last time because my granddaughter was dying, and so I'm back, and thank God she's living. So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very good news. Okay, and could I trouble you, everybody for their names again? I'm sorry, you guys talked way faster than I could write.
Sure, I can read them off right now. Josh Ruiz, myself, my wife Shauna Ruiz, Angel Garcia, Rigoberto Tovar.
You're going to hit me with the first name again.
Go ahead.
Rigoberto, R-I-G-O-B-E-R-T-O.
Now I got it.
Pedro Hernandez, and of course Mike Ross.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we'll get there. Okay, and would you state your name, please, ma'am?
I would like very much, Mayor Lynn and the council, I'm Helen Parker, and I would like to thank you very much for extending the swamp meet through October. As every Halloween, we have Halloween candy for all the children that come, and also on Christmas and Easter, we try to see that the children have something that's very important to us and to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to address us on this? Last chance.
Good evening, Mayor Lynn, council members. My name is Omar Falfal, and I live on J Street with my family. This issue gone too long. This is the 6th time, and this is the 5th time for me to speak. On September 23rd, Mayor Lynn has suggested that he spoke with the college, Allen Hancock, and given until the 31st. I don't think it went on deaf ears. Now they develop a committee. The concessionaire last time, before he left a statement in the newspaper. That's his place. The noise is not the biggest issue, nor the trash. It's the size of the place. And they have stated there are, as goes, 160 spaces in the current place. 112 spaces at the north side, the one they're asking for. The dirt area, I would say approximately 50 places. The parking lot across from Jason from I Street, where Mr. Weimiller has stated himself he witnessed 69 places. Sissy's Place, 20 places. J Street, 35 places. Cypress Street, from H to K, 30 places. If we take it in the front there, the issue about the commercial use, the issue is about the space. It is gone too big for its space. If they can take the houses, they'll take the houses. It is enough for now, and I don't understand why they don't. Last time, one of the gentlemen here, the spokesman, said, we only can blame the concessionaire. Let me tell you some of the complications. One vendor, food vendor, for example, last April, Inspector Sims from Santa Maria Department gave him a violation for cutting. The following week, he's still cutting. Until last week, he's still cutting. Under the eyes of everybody else. Another violator is selling bootleg. He was kicked out of there by the police. He's back there, and he's still selling. Last Saturday, they woke my neighbor up. I was talking to today, 7 o'clock, playing loud music. These people have no way and not willing to do. If they say to change the rule and change the law, this is like the coyote and the roadrunner. They always come up with something new. You have to stand up for your decision. They want you to change your decision. They keep cutting in the cheese, there's nothing left of the cheese. We're not talking about the trash, it's got beyond that. Laws, rules, ordinance, they've been broken. What makes you think that they're going to be not broken as they continue? It's been going for 10 years and more and will not change. This is a habit. They will not change. They were throwing the pipes loudly last week, early in the morning, on purpose, defiant. The concessionaire put a sign on the swap meet sign on I Street stating the last day, the 25th of October. Everybody come out and speak. Every now and then, drag a bunch of people, get them with him, and let's talk. We're not going for the money. They're going for the money. The business, the city of Lompoc getting nothing because they are out of business. They are out of Lompoc. They are not from Lompoc mostly. The one you saw, there are few, they are in Lompoc, yes. And the one they spoke last week, the one against the wall, they are from outside. So you have to consider it. What are you going to do with a 480, 450 parking lot? The front lot is not going to work. I don't know what else they're going to come up with. I hope you stick to your decision. You give them 2.5 months, more than enough. and then you give them an extra month. That's disrespect for your decision. You said until the 31st, and yet they cut short. 2 weeks, they come back again. So I hope you end it and end it forever tonight. And thank you for taking the time.
Thank you. Beat the bell. Next.
Hi, Shelley Davis. This has kind of just turned into a three-ring circus, I think. I mean, we're here again, wasting, I don't think everybody's wasting their time, but I know I am. I should be in bed. I got to work tomorrow. I've been at work all day, and it needs to end. It's getting out of hand. We know the problems. They're the same ones. The front parking lot's way smaller than the back parking lot. It's obvious. Everybody knows that. It needs to stop. It needs to stop and needs to go someplace else. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is William Wordley. I live in South J. I'm not quite sure of the population of Lompoc now, 45,000 approximately, around there. All I want to say is that you represent all of Lompoc, and north, south, east, and west, and I just hope you make the right decision for all of us and the entire city limits. And I'll leave that up to you. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Last chance. Going once, going twice. Oral communications is closed. Okay, Dirk. Now you got to go, because I'm going to ask the council a question. No, I'm just going to ask the council a question. I can't do it with you sitting here.
All right, I will recuse myself.
Thanks. He's going to go hide in the back room now. Okay. So at the break, I spoke with Mike, and the college is willing to make an arrangement or discuss an arrangement, but the fee is a little higher than they had anticipated, so that is an alternative. He also asked me about a vacant property in town, and I went, which was the Barton and H, the vacant parcel where the hotel is, and I went and spoke with staff, and that would require a conditional use permit, so that's not readily available. And now we're back to the same old discussion. Does anyone want to do something different than what we have already chosen to do? Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. I just wanted to, this is a silly question, I should know this, but I think it is getting a little bit late, is the lot that they're speaking of on Ocean Avenue, is that a city-owned lot or is that a chamber-owned parking lot?
That's privately owned. It's the vacant lot where the Ford dealership was torn down. No, I'm sorry, it's on H Street. Did I say Ocean?
No, I'm sorry.
The one they're speaking of is the front parking lot, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that a city-owned parking lot or is that chamber-owned?
It is redevelopment agency owned.
Yeah, the city clerk believes it's a successor agency. I'm not certain.
And so what would the process be if, it looks like
it is.
Ms. Gallivan. Okay, thank you for confirmation. My brain was not putting that together. What would the process be for someone to utilize this? It's used for another purpose, which is the farmer's market every Friday afternoon. So clearly they went through a process to do that. What would a group or an individual have to do to begin the process and the discussion for that space?
That's a great question. I'm trying to think, the only reason my gears are running right now is I'm trying to understand whether we have any other clearance issues with any number of bodies and entities that are connected. Anytime we get involved with the successor agency of the redevelopment agency of the city of Lompoc, we get into a bit of a spider web of approvals for new activities that we might have to get involved in, and I'd really have to need a little bit of time and review. I'd probably need to do a little bit of legal consultation and other, get some structure insights from the other agencies that are involved.
So that's my question, is if this evening there's will of the council to put an agenda item, which would have to be on the next council meeting because that's the final meeting before the deadline, or if this is something that we talk about, at a future date.
Well, because of your rules and guidance on staff's performance and production of agenda reports, the amount of time we need and lead to get legal review and the like, we're already past the deadline for for staff to have turned in their staff reports for the meeting on the 21st. So, that's why many times when you bring something up, and if you're saying next, the next meeting that we're begging off at least 2 meetings out.
Understood. So the idea here is that I'm trying to provide, understanding what the feeling of the council is, I'm trying to provide as much information to this newly formed committee in the case that the swap meet, is inevitably, because of the council decision, going to be expiring at the end of October, that they can potentially look at what their options are from there. Who do they talk to? Is it a council discussion, or does it start with staff, or what is that next step? And it sounds like you need to figure that out.
Yeah, one thing they heard in their request was to negotiate with council, with the mayor and with council. That's outside of the norm. Generally, you give us instruction.
If not on the outside of the norm, it's not possible, because the council can only meet in closed session for real property negotiations to give direction to a negotiator. The council can't meet in closed session with the party that you're negotiating with. You could have a subcommittee appointed to do that, or you could do what has typically been done, is you give direction to staff and then staff negotiates and comes back.
Yeah, I don't know if negotiated was the word that they were probably intending to use. I think it was more like establishing the guidelines. We don't have an agenda item. I don't want to talk too much about this tonight because the public wasn't informed, and so that's important to me. But I'm just trying to, is there will of the council? Is there a majority of the will of the council to put this on a future agenda or to go down this path in the future? I would be in favor.
Councilmember Lingle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is not the format for this. We mentioned the farmers market up front. They didn't come to the city council to negotiate an agreement to rent that space. When the original swap meet flea market originally came, this swap meet came, they certainly didn't start negotiating with the city council or talk to the city council. There was discussion with city administration, probably Parks and Recs, but it wasn't here. I don't think the decision is here with this body to start negotiating. If this group or whomever wants to start negotiating at another location, bring the proposal to the city administration, but certainly not to this body, because we don't have the ability to negotiate. So I'm not in favor of going any further. I don't think we can. To start negotiating another location. It's up to city administration and Parks and Recs and whoever else would get involved in it, but certainly not this body here. We don't have the ability to do it. We just don't have the ability to. It's not in our purview.
Councilmember Homdahl.
Listen to what was presented tonight. It's too bad it wasn't done a month and a half ago. Needed some of that type of quality coming in here. Doesn't say you can't go on out from here. At Hancock College, because I've seen ads, several other junior colleges over the state of California having those facilities. And don't need to be negotiated with the city. It doesn't say if we don't go along with you that you can't sit down and do it. But what really has always bothered me here lately is that we had a 4-year contract with no contract. The city was part of it because they didn't follow up, but the contractor himself didn't ask to have that contract in there. So that's my problem. I've done business, and I always had a contract and knew what I was doing. And like I say, the facility changed a lot from the time I was first there. and to the swap meet it is now. And the front part that you're talking about is not going to work. It's not big enough. And then, but see, if you have it there, you still got to use everybody else's parking. So I can't do anything more, but it doesn't stop you from going ahead and using what you put here tonight and sit down with Hancock College and see if they, and they got the room out there too.
Okay, so just a reminder to everybody that it takes 3 affirmative votes from the 4 of us to take an action, and we don't have 3 affirmative votes to take an action, so your current effort would be to go see Hancock and see if you can't get a deal worked out with them. Okay? Yeah, but the other alternative would be you as a committee to meet with the city administrator and start on something there, but that it's not going to be quick enough so that you're not going to run out of time.
Yeah, my advisory would be that's nothing we can accomplish before October 31st. And if I'm understanding statements right, from what's being reported, and I'm just getting the reports along with everybody else here, is that the college is an available site. Perhaps they don't like the terms as they are currently stand, but it sounds like in terms of the life of the swap meet, it's a viable location other than what those terms might be. I can't even guarantee the viability of the site, both the current site and this proposed site next to Ocean. I just can't provide that's even viable. So I would think if I were those interested in operation of the swap meet, I'd be more interested in getting the certainty of the event going forward, which means focusing again, as you suggested, on the college site, if that's the certainty of a viable site.
Yeah, I agree. And from our standpoint, and I mentioned it in our discussions, we have city bus service up there on Saturday, and if we found that we needed additional bus service to serve the number of people that wanted to go there, we would certainly be, in our transit department, we're always looking for a way to get more riders. So, and then they have some flexibility within their system to add a second bus or more pickup locations, or they can work on that for you too. Okay, I think we'll just take another 3-minute break to allow the room to clear. Thank you very much. Seats, everybody find a seat. Seats. Okay, oral communication is closed. We're moving to the consent calendar. We have approval of the minutes. We have approval of expenditures, payroll voucher for $1.1 million, another one for $1.1 million, an expense voucher for $5.5 million, a voucher for $190,000, a voucher for $1.2 million, manual checks of $2,100, electronic payments of $3.2 million, and I will not participate in check number 322082 for $3.75, and check number 32296 for $7.29 to Lompoc Lock and Safe. Item number 3, award of contract project number FY13 AP1, the North Apron Rehabilitation Phase 1 at the Lompoc Airport, which we have discussed before. Item number 4, adoption of Resolution 594914, the Energy Storage Procurement Targets, which is a program created by the state of California wherein we would find a way to store energy from solar at night. We have concluded that you can't do it successfully. Item number 5, the proposed volunteer policy to operate and maintain the Bike Skills Park at Riverbend Park based on the recommendations of the consultant who created the park. Item number 6, recertification of our sewer system management plan, the SSMP, and this is a requirement of the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Number 7, the Affordable Care Act employee shared responsibility provision compliance approval resolution 595014, under which we set some parameters for the Affordable Care Act that determine how we pay certain things. Item number 8, approval of the memorandum of understanding with the employees represented by the Lompoc Police Officers Association. Item number 9, an approval of the Summit View Reorganization Second Extension Agreement. And that's the Summit View Homes up at the Y, and we have experienced delays in reaching an agreement with the county, and the city administrator is still working on that with regard to the tax sharing. Is there an item a council member would like to remove, or a question in lieu of same? Councilmember Starbuck.
I just had a quick question, and I talked to Mr. Smith earlier about it, and I think it kind of just merits a thing. On this item with the recertification of the sewer system management plan, on the background, it says the same order states the sewage master plan must be updated every 5 years and must include any significant program changes. Further, recertification is required when significant updates are made to the plan. I guess my question is, did anything change, or are we just updating it because it's the 5-year, or is there changes in it? Because it is an old 2009 document, so I didn't really know what.
Sure. Be happy to address that. Tim Smith, wastewater superintendent. Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. To answer your question, Council Member Starbuck, the principal change here was that the state made a change in the monitoring and reporting program for this. This pertains to sanitary sewer overflows. Prior to their change, there were 2 categories of overflows, and then following their change, there were 3 categories of overflows. And basically, they considered that a substantive change, and for that reason, that's why it's coming back to council. Basically, this program is a broad overview that's required by the state of our sanitary sewer maintenance plan. It's our plan and document that guides that. There are other minor updates in here. It's been updated to the current date that was listed on here of September 19th. It's current up through that. So it has our new budgetary capital investment program and that sort of thing in it. Those are considered routine minor updates, but the state made a major change. That's why we have to bring it back to council.
Well, thank you, Mr. Smith. I was overflowing with information when I read it, and I just didn't really know what I was changing and approving.
Right.
Thank you.
That's a substantive change here.
Okay, is there any other item a council member would like to get a brief discussion on or pull from the list? Seeing no lights lit, I would love a motion.
Move to accept.
Second.
And is there any further discussion? Seeing none, could we vote, please? That passes 5-0. Thank you. Lompoc Airport Commission structure. Introduce ordinance 160814. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Staff recommendation before you this evening is to authorize the membership structure of the Airport Commission to be changed from 5 voting members and 2 non-voting to 7 voting members. 5 from within the city limits and 2 from within the Unified School District. Also, to read by title only, waive further reading of, and introduce ordinance number 1608(14) as attached. The Lompoc Municipal Code currently authorizes the makeup of the Airport Commission to consist of 5 commissioners from inside the city limits and 2 non-voting members from within the Unified School District. The proposed structure would change the 2 non-voting members to voting members, but retain the requirement that they be within the Unified School District boundaries. The Airport Commission feels this would more realistically represent the makeup of users of the airport and encourage more participation by those users of the airport from outside the city limits. The Airport Commission recommended this change at the Council Commission meeting of August 19th, and consensus report received from the Council for staff to bring this back to you for a change in the City Code. Members of the Airport Commission serve voluntarily and without compensation So this would result in no additional changes except for the voting members to receive the same material they received as non-voting members. The requested change to the Airport Commission would allow additional representation for the airport users who are not residents of the city and would help support and utilize the airport to better value. Thank you.
Thank you. And Richard, don't you have an exciting and new announcement about the airport? You have a new tenant? Come on, throw it in.
Oh, we have, in the last month, we've gained 3 new tenants, actually. One of them is a helicopter that provides not only instructional opportunities to people in the area for rotary aircraft, but they also service a number of other opportunities through their contract to agricultural operators and environmental operators.
And they have a cool helicopter.
Yeah.
No, not quite that exciting. Okay, are there any questions at this time? Okay, we'll go to public comment. Does anyone like to talk to us about this? That was easy, no public comment. We'll come back. I just want to say that I think this is the logical extension of what we did previously when we changed the makeup of the commission to bring in 2 people who don't live in the city but are very involved, and I think it's been very beneficial to the airport. Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Mary Lynn. Yeah, I mean, it was a commission request, and it makes absolute sense in my opinion. So I'm all in favor of it.
Councilmember Starbuck.
I'm agreeing with everybody. That's what that commission wanted. It's been 4 years almost. They're getting their way. Goodness, I'll make the motion. We accept staff recommendation.
I'll second.
And is there any further discussion? Seeing no lights, could we vote, please? And that passes 5-0. Thank you. Item number 11 was pulled at the beginning of the meeting, and now we will have reports. How about start with you, Councilmember Starbuck? We have no written communications. I didn't ask. Oh, we do. I wrote over the top of it. You know, it's good you're keeping an eye on me. Oral communications, your last chance to talk to us for 2 minutes. Going once, going twice, gone. Council reports. He didn't stand up. He looked at me. He looked at his watch. Councilmember Starbuck, you want to start out?
Well, I was out of state for most of the period here, but it was interesting down there at the fire department open house. It was a very good event and well attended.
Yep. Councilmember Humdahl?
Yeah, I think I agree that the fire department program is excellent. I think another thing that happened in the last couple of weeks is Richard Lingori had his open house at the new winery, and then along with that, if anybody read the Sacramento Bee, there's an excellent article about Lingori's wine, and it really very much promoting the city of Lompoc in this article. So the gentleman is a wine writer in Sacramento and talking about the quality of wines in Lompoc Valley, and he used how to pronounce Lompoc, you know, he did it on the piece. So that was an excellent program, which I was real happy about. This last Sunday, I was representing the chamber and the city of Lompoc at the movie Sideways showing the Arlington, and there's about 400 people showed up for that showing, and I think most of you know what the Sideways is, and 5 of the scenes were shot in Lompoc, and they're all excited about it. It's a 10-year anniversary, and like I keep telling them, all the 11-year-olds that 10 years ago are 21 now, and they're starting to drink again. So every 10 years you'll have a recycle of the wine industry, and the quality of wines that come out of Santa Barbara County are recognized all over. So, and I'm always pushing it. Along with that, the last time I was here, I talked about Sonora County judging wine up there, but the other thing that my attention was brought to me is about the earthquake they had up in that area. And I just did, about a couple of months ago, receive a copy of a document done November 4, 2011 of downtown Lompoc, and I don't want to say next week, but I'd like to have it agendized so the general public and the people who own those buildings understand just what value you have. If you want to go up and see what happens to you when an earthquake hits, go to Santa Rosa. So that's it.
Yeah, we do have a comprehensive report that's available. Talk about our non-reinforced masonry buildings. We'd be happy to do that on an agenda item for a meeting.
Yeah. And Councilmember Councilmember Homdahl, I think, is your intent to have an agenda item where we can take an action or to have a report or presentation?
Report.
Okay. All right. And everybody else good with that?
Well, yeah. We'll schedule, it'll probably be into the meeting in November at the earliest. One thing I forgot, I'm sorry to jump in here, but one thing I forgot to mention in my report and might be relevant as you're making your comments now. As I reported before, my intention was to try to clear the calendar for the November 4th meeting. So far, nothing's come up. My full intention is that we'll vacate that date, and so I've advised staff that anything that they had, we've been working on bringing anything that was time sensitive to the October 21st meeting, with the idea that the next meeting following that would be November 18th. So I just wanted to reiterate that our expectation is there's no meeting on November 4th.
Councilmember Costa?
I have nothing to report, just that tomorrow is walk to school day, so keep your eyes out in the morning. There'll be lots of kids walking to school.
Councilmember Lingle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Other than the city administrator mentioned the open house of the fire department, I think we all attended that, and it was a great event. I did attend a meeting for NCPA. It was actually not a meeting. We are the current general manager of NCPA, which is Northern California Power Agency that we are a member city of. Their general manager is retiring the end of this year, and we are in search and we're interviewing for a new general manager. So I drove up last Sunday. We interviewed Monday and Tuesday. I'll be going back up again for a second round next week, but the NCPA has paid my hotels, city paid my transportation. I drove my own car, they paid me mileage for that. So there was some city expense, it was mileage with my own vehicle.
And thank you for the 2 extra drives. They're long. Couple of good things to report. Tomorrow, the San Ynez Band of the Chumash Indians will present a $10,000 donation to the Motorsports Park. So that's pretty exciting. Remind everybody that today I signed the consultant contract for the 246 River Bridge, bike pedestrian bridge, so that's moving forward. I just want to cover a couple things really quickly. With our last SB-CAG meeting, we had $5.2 million worth of savings off the various Union Valley Parkway projects and the Santa Maria River Bridge. That was good because the 246 passing lane project came in $1.6 million over. So the North County Subregional approved using $1.6 for that. We will use $509,000 of it for a Guadalupe intersection improvement. And assuming Caltrans doesn't want a roundabout, we'll use $541,000 for the 166 Black Road. But the City of Santa Maria and the City of Guadalupe requested $90,000 for additional CHP patrols. And you'll remember on West 246, you'll remember Mr. Minetti was killed out there last year in a horrible head-on when somebody passed. There will be Clean Air Express Saturday service out of the Santa Ynez Valley, and we allocated $10,000 of Measure A money and then $10,000 from the County Transit Fund. And then the long-awaited Alamo Pintado bicycle pedestrian bridge, which is kind of like our problem at 246, except it's a lot shorter. The City of Solvang put up $600,000 and the SB-CAG put up $600,000. And again in Buellton, their sidewalk project that they've been trying to get through Caltrans for as long as I've been on SB-CAG, they're going to put up $250,000 and SB-CAG is going to put up $250,000. And the last one, which was actually the main project that we had talked about with resolving the noise issues for the residents at Union Valley Parkway, and $1.6 million was put up for that. There will be a new Safe Routes to School coming up, grants, and at my suggestion, Santa Barbara County Schools was placed in a slot on that committee, replacing SB-CAN. And then, let's see, we had a great mayor's luncheon, and I want to thank the hospital for giving a tour of the Champion Center to all the mayors. A lot of things everybody was very excited about it. And the last thing is at the mayors and managers meeting, I think the fair description is we're the one building more houses than anybody else. So we're getting some more utility connections, which will help us going out into the future. And I attended the same events everybody else did, so we don't need to go over those again. That is my report, and we are therefore adjourned to a regular meeting at 7 p.m. on October 21st. Thank you for joining us.